Hi Otters! I hope you're still staying safe and healthy and staying in. I've come to the library today to read you your next instalment of Arsenic for Tea. So here we go. We walked up through the dim and dusty house, keeping very close together. After all that had just happened and my thoughts about the dinner, my heart was racing. What was the key I had just picked up? Which door would it open? I unfolded my hand and stared at it, and quick as a flash, Daisy poked her nose over my shoulder and said, "Key!" "Ooh," said Kitty, staring too. "Where does it open?" As soon as she asked me, I knew. We were on the first floor landing, about to take the main stairs up to the nursery floor. The lamps were on now, but the bulbs were dim and flickering, and in the odd half-light the house looked very chilly and uncertain. I wasn't surprised that someone could have crept up behind Lady Hastings in the 5 o'clock half-dark. Even now I could barely make out the others around me. I held out the key. "Is it the key to the dining room?" whispered Beanie. "Oh no, Aunt Saskia did it!" "Don't be silly," said Daisy. "We told you, the murderer would have put that key back straight afterwards. Uncle Felix hasn't squeaked about losing it, after all. No, this is something quite different." "Exactly," I said. "It is. If I'm right, I mean." "You usually are," said Daisy. "Apart from when I am, of course. So, Watson, what door do you think this key opens?" I took a deep breath. "Mr. Curtis's," I said. Daisy raised one eyebrow. Her practice must have paid off. "Explain," she said. "We know Aunt Saskia likes to, pick up beautiful things," I said. "And we all saw how she was staring at the watch earlier this weekend. We've been hunting for the watch all day. What if she has too? She must have guessed that Mr. Curtis took it upstairs with him when he was taken ill, although we know he didn't. So in her mind, it should still have been in his room. So she took this key from the bunch in the kitchen sometime this afternoon and went into Mr. Curtis's room to look for it. Just before Lady Hastings fell, I heard footsteps above us in the library. I couldn't work out how someone could be in Mr. Curtis's room. But if it was Aunt Saskia looking for the watch, then everything makes sense." "But if she was looking for the watch just now, she couldn't have been the person who took it from the dining room on Saturday night," said Kitty. "And if we heard her footsteps in Mr. Curtis's room just as Lady Hastings was being pushed, well, she couldn't have been the person to push her. She can't be the murderer." "Very true," said Daisy. "Excellent work, Assistant Kitty." "Ooh," Kitty added, wrinkling up her nose. "Just imagine she went into a room with a dead body." I remembered the nasty smell that had drifted off Aunt Saskia's clothes. "So," said Daisy, "I do wonder about her sometimes. She's quite odd in the way she reacts to things. It's just a dead body. It can't bite. Hazel, hand me that key. Your theory is very good, and I don't doubt it's right. But there's a way to make sure. We need to check this key really does open the door to Mr. Curtis's room." "Ugh!" said Kitty again. "No!" cried Beanie. "But," I said, "Daisy, the body. Mr. Curtis might not be a ghost, but he had been dead for quite some time." She said. "Key, Hazel." I handed it to her, and we all three watched as Daisy went up to Mr. Curtis's door. "She's very brave," said Beanie. "She's quite mad," muttered Kitty. "Goodness, I never knew." But as I stood there, I understood just a little what Daisy meant about the body. It couldn't hurt us. Nothing on the other side of that door could be as terrible as the murderer. Daisy was doing something nasty to make sure we are all safe. As Beanie protested and Kitty looked on breathlessly, I stayed quiet. And Daisy put the key into the lock and clicked open Mr. Curtis's door. A horrid, thin smell came wafting through the crack, making me gulp. It was exactly what I had smelled on Aunt Saskia before. I was right. Aunt Saskia had been in this room at the moment when Lady Hastings had screamed. She couldn't have pushed her off the top of the stairs, and so she couldn't be Mr. Curtis's murderer. Daisy pulled Mr. Curtis's door to again and looked it. "What we need to do," she said, slipping the key into her pocket, "is hold another Detective Society meeting before dinner. This won't end unless we end it. Don't you see? The murderer won't stop. and they've hurt my mother. She may be a silly mother, but she is mine, and I won't have it. I'm going to do something, and you're all going to help me. All right?" I nodded. "All right," I said. I knew I was bound to help Daisy all the way to the end. "All right," said Kitty, glancing at Beanie and then back at us. "We're in too." We climbed the stairs to the nursery and then sat in a circle on the old rag rug in the middle of the room. Daisy had set a candle in its old brass holder between us, and it lit us all softly, shadows flickering across our faces. It felt lovely, but creepy at the same time. I had my casebook on my lap, and Daisy, of course, was leading the meeting. If there had been a table, she would have been at the head. Beanie kept fidgeting and staring at the closed nursery door. I knew Daisy was fearfully annoyed by her, but it was terribly difficult not to be as wobbly as Beanie. I felt as though the mystery were rushing to its conclusion, and we were being rushed along with it. Wouldn't we get to the truth before the police arrive? Or before the murderer got to us? "All right," Daisy said. "This meeting of the Detective Society is hereby called to attention. Present are myself, Hazel, Kitty and Beanie. Write it all down, Hazel. You know what to do by now. The facts of the case are these. At just after 5 p.m, we know the time because Miss Alston had just called us for that 5 o'clock lesson she'd been threatening. Someone pushed Mummy down to the hall. From her account, we know that she didn't see who did it. The top of the stairs was dark, and whoever it was came up behind her and shoved. Hazel, write all that down. Now, this new crime was of course awful for Mummy, but it does finally give us the evidence we need to absolutely rule out some of our suspects." "Bertie," I said, scribbling. "Exactly. We can give Bertie an absolutely watertight alibi. He was with us when we heard Mummy fall. There simply isn't any way that he could have pushed her down the stairs unless he has magical powers, and I know for a fact that he doesn't. Of course, whoever hurt Mummy might not necessarily be the person who killed Mr. Curtis. But really, it's quite impossible to believe that there are 2 murderers running about the house. So I think it's safe to assume that there are one and the same, and that means that Bertie simply couldn't have done the poisoning." I crossed through Bertie's name gladly. "And if we wondered about Mummy before, she is quite obviously out of the picture now. I am sure there are some people in the world who would throw themselves down the stairs to make them appear innocent of a previous crime, but Mummy isn't one of them. She absolutely hates being hurt, and she's always terribly worried about becoming ugly, so she's out too. Next is Aunt Saskia. Hazel very cleverly used the keys she dropped to rule her out of shoving Mummy. Well done, Hazel. Top detectiving. So although we know that she's got dreadfully sticky fingers, we can be quite sure that, this time, she is innocent of murder." I crossed out busily. "And Daisy, we heard Stephen come running down from the top floor just after the push. If you add that to what I told you about him being on a scholarship, you have to admit that it's just not me sticking up for him because he's nice. He can't be a suspect." I could feel my cheeks growing hot again, which was silly. I was only being logical. Kitty grinned at me. I looked away, but Daisy nodded. "Yes, all right," she said. "We've got rid of Stephen's motive for the first crime, and his opportunity for the second, so we can take him off the list. That means we're down to 3. Miss Alston, Uncle Felix, and Daddy." "But didn't you tell us that we shouldn't suspect your father?" Kitty asked. "Yes, and I also told you that the clodhoppers wouldn't understand that at all. They're such sillies. They won't listen to us without real evidence, so we must give it to them." "But if he loves your mother, why would he try to hurt her?" asked Beanie, eyes wide. "Exactly," said Daisy. "Excellent point, Assistant Beanie. If Daddy wanted Mummy back so badly that he was willing to kill Mr. Curtis, then why would he push Mummy off the stairs? But the police might think he was cross with Mummy and wanted to punish her, so even that doesn't let him off." We all sighed. "And we did see him standing on the landing with Aunt Saskia afterwards," I said. "I know. Bother. He keeps on managing to make himself look so guilty. He's already got Chapman covering for him because of something that happened at tea yesterday. And now this. Knowing Daddy, and I do know Daddy, there's something else going on in his head. But to an outsider, he looks like the absolute perfect suspect. If we don't help him, he'll end up being arrested and thrown in jail. Poor Daddy. The Lords will be furious with him. He'll have to go on trial. Oh, it'll be just like the poor stupid Duke of Denver in that book. And then Daisy paused. She was sunk in gloom, and we all understood why. If Lord Hastings was thrown in jail and put on trial, and if there was no evidence that he was innocent, he would be found guilty, and then nothing could save him. But what about Miss Alston and Uncle Felix? I asked, to divert her thoughts. They weren't just on the stairs when we came out of the library. They were next to your mother. Miss Alston said that when she went out onto the first floor landing, there was no one else there. And there wouldn't be, if she was the one who'd pushed Lady Hastings. And your Uncle Felix was being suspicious again, put in Kitty. I could tell that she'd had the same idea as me. He didn't want anyone else touching your mother. Daisy frowned. Uncle Felix was probably trying to look after her all, she said. She is his sister after all. But I admit, when added to his other behaviour this weekend, it is concerning. Oh, I don't like it. It doesn't seem... Why would Uncle Felix spend time with someone like Miss Alston? We know she's lying about who she is and what she's doing here. Oh, I wish we could get into her handbag and discover what it is she's hiding. But how are we to do that? We don't have much time. The police will be here terribly soon, and we must be able to lead them to the murder as soon as they arrive. We could ask her for it, said Beanie. Beanie, really, be sensible. If she's the murderer, she's not likely to agree, is she? In fact, that's just the sort of idea that's likely to end with us getting bumped off. Try again. We could all scream that there's a fire and hope that she drops it, suggested Kitty. Daisy glared, and the meeting disintegrated into a rather loud argument. So tomorrow we will start with Hazel's latest suspect list as a little bit of a recap. Okay, so as I said, I will see you all tomorrow for the next installment. I can't seem to read or speak today, guys. Sorry about that. Never mind. Stay safe, keep healthy, don't go out.